Ever look up at a perfectly blue sky and think, you know what this needs? More stripes? No? Well, like it or not, they've certainly increased in recent years. Some folks believe those stripes, the ones left behind by planes, aren't just harmless contrails, so are they innocuous or not? Buckle up because we're about to dive headfirst into the wild and crazy world of chemtrails. For the uninitiated, the chemtrail conspiracy theory posits that those white plumes crisscrossing the sky aren't just frozen airplane breath. Instead, many are convinced they're chemicals or agents, deliberately sprayed by shadowy government organizations for nefarious purposes. Why would a government choose to poison its citizens from such a conspicuous starting point? I don't know, for funsies, thought control, population control? Now I'm no meteorologist, but I've spent enough time staring out of airplane windows to know that planes leave trails. It's basic science. But is that it? Many see malice in those wispy lines, a grand atmospheric conspiracy unfolding above our very heads. So is it all a load of hot air, and barium, if you believe the hype? Or is there something more to those sky-high shenanigans? Let's investigate, shall we? Proponents of the chemtrail theory, our intrepid sky watchers, have compiled a list of grievances against these supposed aerial assaults. They'll tell you those persistent trails are full of mind control substances or weather-altering chemicals or maybe even experimental drugs. The possibilities are as endless as the blue yonder itself. They point to evidence like unusual cloud formations because regular clouds are apparently passé. Another theory blames chemtrails for the more extreme weather we've seen in recent years. Lastly, what about the increase in physical ailments over the years? Could this be due to chemtrail exposure? Now, I'm not saying the government hasn't considered some wacky schemes in the past, but even for them, this seems a bit far-fetched. At least that's what I keep telling myself. Imagine trying to coordinate a global spraying operation with thousands of commercial flights. To be fair, the logistics alone would be a nightmare, but certainly not impossible. Wouldn't it be easier to just put whatever they're spraying in our water supply? Well, now that I think about it, they probably do that too. Let's be clear, there's no credible scientific evidence to support the existence of chemtrails. Scientists and aviation experts have repeatedly attempted to debunk these claims, explaining that those persistent trails are simply contrails, condensation trails formed when hot, humid exhaust from planes meets the cold, dry air of the upper atmosphere. But where's the fun in that? I mean, sure, science is great, but let's face it, a world where the government might be secretly controlling the weather with airplane farts is way more interesting. And who are we to say what's impossible? After all, we live in a world where you can buy a pizza with your phone and Elon Musk is trying to send people to Mars. Frankly, at this point, a little atmospheric meddling almost seems quaint. Section 4. The government is up to something, probably. Let's be real, the government has a bit of a trust problem. From Watergate to the Tuskegee syphilis study, there's a long and storied history of government agencies engaging in, shall we say, ethically questionable activities. So, I can understand why some people might be a little suspicious of anything coming out of Washington, especially if it's falling from the sky. But even the most cynical among us have to admit that the chemtrail theory is a bit of a stretch. Or maybe that's what we tell ourselves so we sleep better at night. If the government were really trying to control us with chemicals, surely they'd be a little more subtle about it, right? Right, like, maybe they'd put it in our toothpaste or those targeted ads that seem to know everything we're thinking. Speaking of things that know everything we're thinking, have you ever noticed how much those Alexa things listen? Like, really listen, just saying. Section 5, keep looking up, but not directly at the sun. So, are chemtrails real? The evidence, or convenient lack thereof, suggests we'll probably never know for sure. But hey, that's the beauty of a good conspiracy theory, isn't it? It gives us something to ponder while we're stuck in traffic or waiting for our internet to reconnect. At the end of the day, whether you're a die-hard chemtrail believer or a staunch skeptic, there's one thing we can all agree on. The sky is a weird and wonderful place, so next time you're gazing up at those fluffy white clouds, or are they? Take a moment to appreciate the mystery of it all. Just maybe don't forget your tinfoil hat. It will help keep the chemicals from penetrating your scalp.